Fox News alert. The Secret Service now says its investigation into the cocaine found at the White House is officially closed. The announcement comes just hours after the agency briefed Congress on the matter, and we are now learning new details about the investigation from that briefing. Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Emily Compagno, here with my co-hosts Kayleigh McEnany and Harris Faulkner, and also joining us today, Fox News contributor and former State Department spokesperson Marie Harf, and Fox News contributor and senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, Mark Thiessen. Now, the Secret Service is confirming that the bag of cocaine was found in a vestibule outside the West Wing, where staff go in and out and tour groups gather to drop their phones and other belongings before entering. We're also learning that lab testing on the bag found no fingerprints and no DNA evidence. A review of surveillance footage did not identify a suspect. The investigation ended with no leads. The Secret Service says, quote, "Without physical evidence, the investigation will not be able to single out a person of interest from the hundreds of individuals who passed through the vestibule where the cocaine was discovered. At this time, the Secret Service's investigation is closed due to a lack of physical evidence." Kayleigh, I come to you first.
Yeah, hundreds of suspects, that makes sense because we now know that it was the West Wing executive entrance there. There are not cameras in the West Wing. There are, however, cameras on the outside. So they would be able to narrow it down to who's walking in and out. But over a multi-day period, that is hundreds of people. You can't nail it down just with camera footage, although I wish you could. But secondly, this ever-changing narrative is complex and peculiar to me. First, it's the Library of the Residents. Then there was some reporting the formal West Wing lobby. Nope, that was dismissed quickly. Then it's in the cubbies as you walk in the West Executive entrance. And then all of a sudden there was this NBC report, oh, it's closer to the Situation Room, which that was highly alarming because that would suggest a staff member. Now, as it turns out, I think that came about because reporters were looking at the map and the Situation Room looks close to the entrance, but it's not. The entrance is not. However, on a map, it does look that way. So I think that was confusion in the reporting. But if I'm Karine Jean-Pierre and there's all this wild reporting, I would have gone to Secret Service because, as Marie knows, half of your job as a spokesperson is to be an investigator, to go get the facts. I would have gone to Secret Service saying there's wild speculation in the press. Tell me where you found this so I can take this to the White House podium. She didn't do that. It allowed wild speculation. The cubby holes, I would say, two groups of people use those cubby holes. NSC staff or staffers walking from EEOB, younger folks coming in. They don't have offices in the West Wing. They use the cubby holes because they're about to walk into a skiff, or a guest of a staff member. You could call it a tourist, but it would be a close relative or a friend. Those are the two groups I would suggest it is. But finally, final point, when asked if this was a family member, for Andrew Bates to say, I cite the Hatch Act, which has to do with elections. Bizarre. Joe Biden's asked questions about this. He doesn't answer. Karine Jean-Pierre asked about the family, and she derides the reporter. I would have gone to Trump and said, they're saying this is your family member. He would have said, absolutely not. I would have gone to the podium and said, I have zero reason to believe this is anyone in the president's family. Why she didn't do that, I do not know.
So, Marie, to Kayleigh's points, I feel like taking out the Hatch Act, to me, that was just a frankly, absolutely uneducated and sort of delusional answer. So let's pretend that's an exception and just put it to the side. She raises such great points, which is that, the American people are sort of asking, so for Karine Jean-Pierre to initially misreport that the first family wasn't home, to then there be mixed signals and mixed information about the actual location of the cocaine where it was found, and then for her to shut down journalists who asked, who otherwise would have probably been correctly labeled as journalistic malpractice, to have not questioned about it, and for the media-friendly, Politico, within 24 hours to say, well, likely they won't ever find who did it. All of these things build up to ask, why weren't the optics handled differently?
Well, so there are two questions, right? One is substance and one is optics, as you mentioned. I think I shouldn't use substance. That's a pun here I was not intending to use. But substantively, I do think it was probably a guest. I doubt it was somebody who works there. This Biden White House has actually been criticized for having a very tough drug policy around things like marijuana use by potential employees. So probably, statistically, it's probably a guest. Optically, look, I think a few things are true. Kayleigh is right. When you go to that podium, you have to have as much information as possible and be as precise as possible. Karine Jean-Pierre is right that they weren't there for most of the weekend. She should have said they left the White House at X time. They weren't there for most of it, right? I think, so, she was generally right, but you have to be so precise with every single thing you say. Look, on the question of the president's family, if I were in that position, I would probably bristle at that a bit, because I think that people use Hunter Biden's past problems with drugs in a bunch of political ways right now, in partisan ways. I think he should be applauded for being sober, regardless of what you feel about his other actions. He seems to have gotten his life back together, at least when it comes to that part of it. And to insinuate that somehow he did this, I think is a little beneath some people, maybe commentators on Twitter, or so. I'm not saying the journalist did this, but I'm just saying this insinuation that maybe it was him because of his past use, when there's no evidence, feels to me like kind of a cheap shot. But look, we may never know. We will probably never know who did this, and we will all move on, I guess.
So, Mark, to Marie's point, while we're dancing at the table of optics, where specificity matters, precision matters, and that's why journalists could craft things in a way that wouldn't have someone bristle then, perhaps, and say, you know, I have to ask this question, Karine Jean-Pierre. Many Americans are wondering, is it hunters? Can you please address the natural correlation? I mean, if they want us to be gentle and respectful with the delivery, it at least doesn't take away the point that remains, which is, yes, it's the obvious question. All of those. Where were they? Where were they? Where was it found? Etc. That she kept messing up on every step of the way.
No, because she's a terrible press secretary. If Kayleigh had been the press secretary, it would have been a whole different story. But look, here's the thing. Here's the problem with the visitor thesis, is that so Kayleigh and I both had offices in the West Wing, and there's this street called West Executive Avenue, which is a closed street. It's within the White House complex. There's two ways to get into that. If you're a visitor or if you're a regular staff member, you go through Secret Service screening on Lafayette Square to get in. And so you would have, if it was a visitor, they would have had to bring a bag of cocaine and put it through the screening that goes into West Executive Office. I would be, if I had cocaine, I would be terrified to do that. So then what else are there?
Maybe that's why they left it there. Maybe they got scared.
Maybe.
I don't know.
But then the only people who can circumvent that screening are cabinet secretaries who show up on West Executive in their motorcades, senior staff who, like us, had parking on West Executive, it's like a parking lot for the senior staff, or get carpet service, which is the vehicles that they use, or a family member. Those are the only people who don't go through that Secret Service screening. So I'm not saying it couldn't be a visitor, but that's not the obvious answer, because those people have to go through. I mean, I went to Walter Reed once, and I had like a radiological thing. They had to give me a letter because I would set off the radiological detectors if I went through that thing. They've got dogs there. I mean, it's intimidating to go get into the White House. So it would be highly unlikely to bring a bag of cocaine into the West Wing.
I think what's so illustrative of what you just said is that the detail and the lengths to which the prophylactic nature of our law enforcement there at the White House, that the strengths that they have, to be on the other end, well, sorry, we got nothing, is so hard. It's so difficult to.
That's also the problem. So number one, if it did go through, if it was a visitor and they got a bag of white powder through Secret Service screening, that's a huge problem for the Secret Service, because what if that was anthrax? What if that was something else?
Yeah.
A bag of white powder is dangerous. And two, that they can't get to the bottom of it. This is the most secure building in the world.
Yeah.
You can't get into that building, people, they give them your social security number, and they have to do a background check on every visitor who comes through, whether they had a criminal record. We had people actually during State of the Union addresses where we actually wanted to bring somebody in as a guest, and they got rejected, because the Secret Service found a criminal record on their background. So this is highly screened. You can't. Nobody, somebody with a drug conviction would probably wouldn't be allowed to get into the executive office. So it's a problem that they didn't catch it, and that they haven't figured out the answer.
Well, and I think, Marie, I don't know what you've been reading, but I think that that's why there is sensitivity around the idea of Hunter Biden. It has nothing to do with everything I've read and the reporting I've done with whether or not he was the person with the cocaine. What it has to do with is how sensitive was this investigation, given what has gone on with that particular family and their son's past problems. I mean, those are the questions that have come up that I have read and seen, and have asked myself. But with regard to who we have sitting on the couch today, I just want to say thank you to you both, because you're bringing more than your opinions today. You're bringing your experiences, having stood at a lectern in high posts in our federal government. And I really appreciate that perspective and that detail. Congressman Chip Roy, the great state of Texas, told me last hour, one way, you need more cameras. You've been saying that for a few days now. But the other thing, too, is for those cubbies, he said, why don't we have like a simple locker system? You come in, if you are in fact going to a skiff, you shouldn't have your cell phone anyway. Yeah. You shouldn't have any of those things on you, and you shouldn't have cocaine. So if you have to check everything, maybe then there's a way to screen what's going into those lockers.
Yeah,
nobody is promised privacy in that time period. Yeah. So no one should expect any. So it's interesting because somebody did.
Yeah.
Well, we are definitely left, unfortunately, with more questions than we probably started with, but know that if any answers come to light, we will bring them to you right here. Hey everyone, I'm Emily Compagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kayleigh McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.